Hello, everybody. How are you? I trust you're doing well. This is Dr. Sa. I'm coming to your way with another great episode. It's possible with Dr. Sa. And I have an amazing guest who she is very, very driven. And today she's going to share her experience with us. She's going to share her journey with us. So we'll be able to learn from her. We'll be able to grab a few lessons here and there or inspiration. So we'll be able to use or apply in our own personal life. I'm so glad you're watching this video. Thank you for being here. And if you haven't considered to be part of this community, consider, subscribing to this video or to this channel and like this video. Share with your friends. I always say that you never may know who is going to benefit from this video. All right. So I want you to share this video. I want you to like it and even give us your thoughts and comments on what you think about our discussions. All right. Well, my guest today, I'm so excited, like I said, to have her here with us, because she is very, very driven. She is a nutritionist. She is a Princeton Review Instructor. And above all, she is also the CEO and the founder of Dr. O Juice. So, like you said, this it takes an amazing person to be able to juggle all this around. And outside of this, she's also a professional. Okay, so we want to learn from her. I'm going to bring Dr. O here, and Dr. O goes. Her full name is Dr. Oluwatosin Oluokun. Did I say well?
Yes, Oluokun. Yes.
Okay, Oluokun. All right. So, you know, I I don't know if I don't know how you're gonna rank me on this, how I pronounce the name, but I have been dealing with more. I've been dealing with Yorubas in the past 14 years of my life, more than I have even been dealing with, my own people, Ghanaians, and that has allowed me to really be able to be acclimated to, the culture, the Yoruba culture, and also the names, and it's really amazing. Well, Dr. O, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and honored that you selected to interview me today.
Nice.
Mhm.
Well, I trust you're doing well.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about yourself, who you are, so we can get to know you, even where you currently based?
Okay, my name is Dr. Oluwatosin Oluokun, like Dr. Sam mentioned. A lot of people call me Dr. O. O comes from my last name, Oluokun, and also the story behind it is that when I was in school, no one knew when I was going to graduate. So when I finally graduated, everybody was like, "Oh!" So that's how the Dr. O aspect came from. I'm based in Bowie, Maryland. So that's not too far, about 26 minutes from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And
Mhm.
like Dr. Saab mentioned, I have three different things I'm doing, but it's all centralized around healthcare. Nigerian, Yoruba, from Ikere, Ekiti, Nigeria, but I'm first generation, I would say, in the United States of America.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm also first generation
Mhm.
in here, so we that's something we have in common.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about how it feels to be a first generation. I mean, in your family.
Mhm.
But you just mentioned something profound here, that when you went to school, people did not know when you're going to graduate. So when you
Mhm.
graduated, everybody was shocked, or it was like, whoa, she did it. Tell us, how did that come about?
Oh, my educational journey was very unique. I try not to put any negative words or adjectives surrounding it, but most
Mhm.
students, when they go to college, they know what their major is going to be, whether they're going to major, do biology pre-med or do political science pre-law, the typical majors that people do, or engineering. But when I went
Right.
in, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to be, but just by the influence of my background, it's like, okay, just do, either nursing or do, bio pre-med and just figure it out along the way. So, and my undergraduate journey was very interesting because I changed my major like 7 times, but I still
Wow.
managed I still managed to graduate on time. I graduated with my luckily my the school that I was attending was the Ohio State University,
Okay.
OHIO for the Buckeyes.
Yes, yes.
Graduated from Ohio State University.
Buckeyes.
I think Ohio State University right now is a semester school, but when I was attending, it was a quarter school. So that's what helped me a lot. I never took any summer breaks. I just went to school every single quarter, and I would be taking like 21 credits, 25 credits, 21 credits, 25 credits. The twists
Wow.
and turns, trying to figure out what do you love? What do you love? Is it science? Is it psychology? Is it math? Because I loved a lot of stuff. I loved business. I loved everything makes sense now. I love business. I love nutrition. I love science. I was very good at math, and then everything adds up. It makes sense now. So it took me 4 years and a quarter. So I graduated winter quarter from the Ohio State
Wow.
University, and then from there I was like, you know what, I want to continue my journey and do get a master's. So then I applied for a dual master's program at University of Maryland. So that's where I ended up getting my master's in healthcare management and business administration. So I was like, you know what, I like the healthcare field, but I also like the
Mm,
business side of things.
mm,
So did the dual major. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I started working at, this is a long story. So I started working at the Center for Integrative Medicine. And over there, I was managing the formulary. The Integrative Center is basically a combination of holistic medicine with conventional medicine. And that's how they help the
okay.
patient as a whole. So because of my degree of, the healthcare management side of things and also the business side of things, I'm managing all the formulary, their homeopathic remedies, the patients that entered in and are just managing our entire clinic. And over there, I learned a lot about naturopathic medicine, about tinctures, through the testimonies of the patients, like someone diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer living to like 95 years old, and just seeing, the power of nutrition, the power of holistic care in combination with conventional care. I was like, okay,
Mm,
wow, maybe there's something more I need to be doing. But of course, I was like, I'm done with school because all these degrees. At this point, we're counting 3 degrees. We have the Bachelor of
right.
Science, then in Human Ecology and Human Development. Then we have the MBA, and then we have the MHA. So I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to school. But the medical director of the Center for Integrative Medicine, I'll never forget him. If he's watching, I'm calling y'all Dr. Mikhail Kogan. He told me, he's like, I
Wow.
see that you have a love for science. I think you need to go back to school. I was like, I don't want to go back to school. I have 3 degrees. So, anyways, I was looking up degrees that I felt like, could, dig deeper in the science part of it, but not take a
Mm,
long time. So that's when my medical director introduced me into the physician associate program. So that's when I applied at Howard University. So yes, I went to PWI, also to HBCU, HU, and got
wow.
I went to the physician associate program. And then in that program, I learned a lot about, like, skin diseases, blood diseases, blood disorders. I learned about miscellaneous amount of things. However, what I didn't like about conventional care is the speed of things, how quickly we got patients in and out, and
Right.
how it was like we're medicating right now, but it's not no fault of anybody that studied conventional care alone, but I just didn't feel like, the
This was
patients
the
were
right
getting
fit.
healed
Mm,
100% completely. So I
mm,
was like, you know what? If I ever, this is what I thought to myself. I said, if I ever wanted to do a PhD study on research or anything, it would be on like medication errors and issues within healthcare facilities. Because I realized a lot of the patients that either were deceased or they had any type of reactions to medications was due to, like medication errors. So that's when I
right.
ended up deciding to get a PhD. You see, this journey is very long, and people are like, "You're still in
Sure.
school? You're still in school?" I had to stop talking about it. because people were like, "What are you studying now?" So I just stopped talking
Right.
about it. So I ended up doing a PhD, and my research was on strategies to mitigate information technology discrepancies in healthcare organizations. So that, in plain and simple English, is just finding what are the errors causing the issues and the outcomes in healthcare clinics. And the reason I was so passionate about this is because in the facility I worked in, there was an issue between transfer of health information exchange between the different systems, from the system we were using to the other system. Because when there's patients that are in the system for a long time, they have loads and loads of medical records, and in different healthcare facilities, they use different systems. And
And they
sometimes
don't
these
talk to
systems,
each other.
they don't talk to each other, not compatible. The CPO, they're not
Right.
compatible. So
Right.
some patients actually lost their lives. And I'm speaking in general. Patients lose their
Mm,
lives because of this, because of the lack
mm,
of communication between these systems. So that's when I was passionate. I wrote all about CPOE, how it can make improvements as far as like medication errors, etc. And then I thought I was done there. So that's
mm,
how, it became Dr. O. And, the whole business, I know this is just one question and it's just digging
mm.
deeper, deeper,
No.
deeper.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. I like
so
this.
when I graduated from that program, that's when I came out. I just, told a few of my closest friends, my family, and then, next thing you know, boom, I posted graduation. She's like, wait a minute, this whole time you were still in school?
Nice.
Because while I was in school, people don't realize that it's a journey. Everybody's always waiting
Right.
to the end, but you're supposed to enjoy every single piece of the journey. It's all part of excitement. So no one realized I was in school because I was also very involved in the community while I was in school. So they were
Mm,
like, "There's no way." She's still in school with all this, and it's like, wait, you were in school this whole time? So when I graduated, that's what everybody's like, oh, okay. So now you know where O came from. Okay, Dr.
I
O. But now
see.
let's
I
get with
see.
the juice. Let's get with now. Let's see how this business started.
Right.
Okay, so a
Right.
lot of times when people start business, they have a business plan, they plan it out, they come up with a logo, they come up with their colors. But for me, it wasn't the conventional route. So what happened is that I remember vividly, it was in about, I think it was about 8 years ago. They had the third year medical students. They came to my church and they were doing like free physicals for all the church members. And I thought to myself, oh, I don't need to get a physical. I exercise. I'm good. But I was like, you know what? Let me help these. I'm a student. I was a student for a long time, so let me help these students out so they can get their hours. So I went and got a
Mm,
physical, and to my surprise, the medical student told me that you should have been on blood pressure medications yesterday. And I was like,
wow.
me, blood pressure medication. He's like, yes, you need to get on blood pressure medications. You need to go see your primary care physician and a specialist. And it was just a lot, a lot. So the good thing is that one of my best friends, she's actually a pharmacist. So I reached out to her and I said, what is your recommendation for the lowest dose medication for hypertension? And to my surprise, and the whole irony of it is that instead of her to recommend something for me or say the same advice to med student, she was like, how about you try changing your diet? How about you try juicing? So I was like, what is juicing? Because at this point, I've
Wow.
never juiced. I didn't even know what juicing was.
Mm,
I never heard of it. And the only thing I heard about was like nasty concoctions, but never heard of juicing. Didn't even know how to juice or anything. So she started a group where we juiced quarterly for 10 days every quarter. So that was basically like 4 times a year. And we just 10 days, no food or anything, just juice. And I believe we drink about like 48 ounces of juice per day with lots of water. So I was in this like juicing support group. So I started juicing for the year. I changed my diet. I stopped eating meat. I know that's very extreme. I only plan to do it for 2 weeks,
wow.
but now it's
That's extreme for an African.
yes, very it's very extreme. So I actually became a vegan. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks, but those 2 weeks I felt so energetic. I felt so powerful. My skin cleared up. Like I just looked different. People were like, your skin is glowing. You look different. Like, are you wearing any foundation? I'm like, no, this is my skin. Like, so I just noticed like a lot of like improvements in like how I
Hmm.
felt, how I looked. And then a year later, because I go for my annual physical, the doctor said, I don't know what you did, but you no longer have hypertension and you no longer have high cholesterol because that's something else I had. I was like, wow. So all I had to do is change my diet and juice and everything. So that's when I started, doing more research on juicing. For the diet part,
Mm.
I was doing my research and, understanding, okay, what to eat, how I can still maintain my African heritage, but still eat, delicious, healthy food. So we'll go into that.
Right.
So with the juicing, I did my research on it and I started learning the science behind it, like, oh, the beet juice, how the oxalates expand your arterioles and it lowers your blood pressure. So even if you drank beet juice in the morning, by the end of the day, it gets lowered by 5 mmHg. So that's how powerful like certain fruits and vegetables are within our bodies and juicing, learning the power of atrophy, how your body can self-heal by not eating, by juicing. So I just learned the science behind it and I started juicing quarterly. And the thing about it, I was so disciplined with this juicing because of my reverse diagnosis that I didn't care if
Right.
you had a party or a wedding. I would still attend. I would
You
still
saw the
support you.
results.
Yes, I saw the
Yes.
results. So I started bringing my juice anywhere I went. Like if you, let's say you invited me, you say you're doing your 30th birthday, I'll come. But if it was during my 10 days of juice fast, I will come. I will not eat any of your food and I would just drink my juice. And then so people started
Wow.
noticing like this girl's unusual. Like, why is she drinking juice? There's jollof rice here, there's chicken, there's moi moi, there's beans, everything. And I'll just
Right.
explain. So people started knowing me as the juice lady. The juice lady.
Mm.
So there's this one day, one of my
That
close
is a
friends,
serious commitment.
and so I'm saying I was seriously committed because I was like, I didn't want to be on blood pressure medications for the rest of my life. Because, a lot of times the doctors
Exactly.
will tell you, give you a life sentence, you're on this medication for the rest of your life. And I'm like, mm-mm, like, this is not what I want for myself. So, long story short, one day, this is how this thing started evolving to a business. So, one day, one of my close friends, she saw me juicing. She's like, you're juicing again. I really need your help. I said, sure. What do you need help with? She said, can you juice for me? I said, absolutely not because I was like, this is not this is not a business. I said I juice for
Right.
myself, but I said I can give you a spreadsheet of all my ingredients. You can make it. And she's like, what am I going to do with this? This is just so much ingredients. Like, please. So she actually followed me to my house. Like, this is how
Mm.
determined. I was like, wait, someone is following me.
Wow.
She followed me to my house. And then I anything I had in my fridge that day, I made for her. And she took and mind you, no logo or anything. I had mason jars. So she took the
Mm.
juice in mason jars. And this person happens to be someone that's very popular. She's a wedding planner, event planner. A lot of people at work, they saw her with the juice. They were asking her who did it. And next thing you know, I had all these calls on my phone that weren't saved numbers. So now these are strangers calling
Wow.
me. So I
Wow.
called my friend back. I said,
It
did you
blew
give me my
up.
number? Yeah, she said, please, can you juice for them? So I was like, okay. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, it's just going to be something small, just for friends and family and community here and there. So what happened is I started getting like mason jars at Wegmans and I would just juice. I originally had 4 flavors that I invented my own. I would drive to all these houses and it started getting out of control. Like I would leave my house in the morning and then be coming back at night because I'm driving to all these local houses, dropping off juice, dropping off juice, dropping off juice. And this is what
Wow.
was the game changer. The
Mm.
game changer was when somebody out of state said they needed my juice. I was like, I'm only local to the DMV because I started posting on social media like this is the juice, I'm juicing like so people out of state were like, what about us? Like, is it only your community that you're interested? Like,
Mm.
so the person in Texas is someone I actually knew, so I had no clue on how to ship or anything. So I packaged everything in mason jars. I had dry ice. The coolers you used for
Right.
juice and water. I packed it in the cooler. And then when I got to UPS, when they weighed my package, the package was heavier than the produce itself. I'm like, yeah, this is.
Wow.
I have to think of a better method to make it more affordable and people can afford it. So by the time it got to Texas, the good news is that it got to Texas. The bad news is that by the time it got to Texas, the mason jars were broken. The juice, some of the juice fermented, and it was terrible. So I was like, I need to come up with a different strategy. So that's when I was
Mm.
able to evolve, get FDA approved bottles. Also, and they were light BPA free, so they were like not even a pound, and then spill proof, so where they wouldn't oxidize. Because once oxygen goes to your juice, that's it. You got to
That's
drink it,
the
but if it's not oxidized, it lasts longer. So learning the different methods, learning how to package via UPS. Had a friend that was manager UPS. He taught me how to pack, bottles and stuff and make it as light as possible. So I was able to come up with an affordable strategy to ship nationwide. So that's how we ended up shipping nationwide. And I skipped a step in the journey of how the logo and everything developed. So I'm surrounded by a lot of people in my network that they own, their business owners, etc. And I had a friend that she was doing a launch. It's not even in the same sector, but she was doing a lashes launch, Fab Lab Glam Lash launch. And she said,
mm,
I would like you to bring your juice to my launch. And I was like, well, I don't have any business cards. I don't have a logo. And she said, figure it out. And mind you, that's 4 days before her launch. She said, figure it out. And she walked away.
wow,
I was like, oh my goodness. Like, so in 4 days I was able to come up with a logo design. I went to Office Depot, got some business cards, and boom, that was it. And the way I made it, that what attracted people to the juice was that, you know how people have like wine tastings and they have everything in like wine cups. So I turned it to juice tasting, but I had them in wine cups and I had them in colorful order. And then I had my table, it like was very made it look very beautiful, like, glitter, table cover, wine glasses, and balloons, little backdrops. So it's just like, wow, like it's just so appealing to the eye and all the colors. So
right,
people would taste it, the juice. And then from there that year, I ended up doing one pop up at a lab launch to 12 because other business owners were there and they were like, "Oh, can you come to my launch? Can you come to my lunch? Can you come to?" It was never like I scheduled anything, didn't plan anything. It's like people were finding me, and I just ended up being booked that entire year, just doing pop ups, and that's how. My customer and client base just started expanding just from other strangers and people seeing me at pop-ups, etc. And that's how like the business just kind of grew. This was like the business plan kind of formed on its own, and it just everything just kept
wow,
happening. And then I just realized like a lot of times, people that grew up like me, like for instance, my my childhood was very interesting because I felt like we worked a lot because my parents were business owners and they had like three or four businesses, and a lot of times me and my siblings were like, can we just have fun? Like our friends are at Disney and we're here working we're here working at your shop or your or like because they had multiple businesses. They had like African food business. Then there was
mm.
Ashobi, basically like African attire business, jewelry
In Ohio.
business. Oh, yes, you probably even jewelry business, beauty
I know
supply.
I lived in Ohio for I'll say 11 years.
Yes,
In
I lived in
Columbus.
Ohio for a while too. Let me see, from 2000 for 7 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in
Okay,
Columbus, Ohio.
we may have probably chanced on each other at some point,
Yes.
but
Too
go
many
ahead.
businesses.
Interesting.
And then the biggest business that
Yes.
I was just like, my goodness, that took all my physical strength was they got a contract where we would clean these skyscraper corporate buildings. It was a cleaning contract. So those don't underestimate these businesses that clean. They give you big money to clean. And it's I see why, because the physical labor is much.
It's a
So
lot.
they ended up the employees of this business. So my dad won the contract, and the employees of the business was just me and my siblings. So you already imagine like a 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 story corporate building, and now you got to
Mm.
every night you got to take out all the trash. You got to vacuum every floor. You have to clean the bath, clean that. Whew. So imagine over summer vacation, your friends like, "Oh, I went to Miami and all that," and you're like, "I clean."
Right.
So I used to be like, man, I just feel like my whole childhood I've been working, and then with the beauty supply store, like I learned the skill of doing hair because my mom used to do hair. So it was like holidays, Christmas Eve, people are coming to get their braids done, and you're braiding, and like, man, I just want to chill at home. So you're like kind of like upset about the background, but when you realize in the future, like, you know what, all these skills that I learned, growing up is actually what helped me to be a successful business. Because yes, you can get all these degrees, you can learn about business administration, you can learn about healthcare management, but when you
They
do
don't
that
teach you how to
hands-on,
cook. Right.
yes, yes. So I feel like that hardcore business skill that I learned going to flea markets, that's something we used to always do. And I'd be like, I used to not like, I don't like to use the word hate. I used to strongly dislike going to the flea markets, but now, like the endurance and the discipline behind it, because at the flea markets, you have to show up at like 7 a.m., be on time, set up, like dealing with a certain time set up, then break down, you're out. And, the math behind it, learning, return of interest, all that. So it's like, I didn't know I was learning that skills because it was like along the way, I feel like God was setting me up for the future. And that's the reason why I was running away from business because I was like, you know what? In my adult life, once I
I'm
graduate,
not
I'm
doing
just going to
this.
work at 9 to 5. And there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. There's absolutely nothing. I still work 9 to 5, but I never knew the addition of it was going to be that I'll be owning my own business. So I know this is a long journey. I just summarized it because we can go into detail of, the bad side, the pros, the cons, the great things that happen, owning a business. But that's how we became Dr. O Juice or Dr. O.
I mean, what a fascinating story.
Yes. Mhm.
I mean, something that started bad, quote unquote,
Yes.
that started
Mhm.
as a challenge, as a problem, and
Mhm.
you were able to flip it and turn it around. Just go through the journey. Allowing yourself to go through the journey, and now look at where it has transitioned to, and who knows
Mhm.
what the future holds.
Yes,
Um,
true.
there's a statement that I always say
Mhm.
that a problem that pushes you towards your goal or pushes you towards fulfillment and a place of purpose is a good problem. And
Mm,
and and,
yes.
and the reason is that if that thing never had happened, if you've never had gotten this diagnosis, if that uh, uh, clinical staff never told you that thing, you may probably never have looked into your health.
That's
And
true.
looking into your health got you into juicing, becoming a vegetarian. And now
Mhm.
you were so much, you saw the results, people
Mhm.
recognized what you were doing and they got interested in it. And I
Yes.
mean, doors kept opening and doors kept opening.
Mhm.
And one side
Mhm.
of it that you also shared is the experience you gained as a child by working with your parents. Because,
Mhm.
like you said, in school, we don't learn all these skills.
Yes.
They
Mhm.
don't teach you how to be resilient. They don't teach you how to manage your own business. It's all about
Mhm.
the theory aspect of it. But there are some
Mhm.
trainings that you can get, and especially from an African home, that
Mhm.
that that
Mhm.
would become the
Mhm.
bedrock, or would
Mhm.
become even a most valuable skill that
Yeah.
would end up playing a crucial role in one's life later on. So your story is so fascinating, and
Mhm.
this is exactly what I mean by true inspiration, because somebody could have you know be depressed, have this diagnosis, I don't know what to do, I'm challenged, and that will be it. And
Yes.
again, but you manage to use that to fuel into becoming something purposeful, which is not only helping you but is
Mhm.
helping others as well.
Yeah.
It's really mind-blowing. How has the journey been so far from for you? Of course, you never imagined, you know the day you were told your blood pressure is high, you never imagined that this is where it was going to lead to, but
Mhm.
here you are today. How has the journey been for you? Of course, you're juggling, doing other three things at the same
Mhm.
time. Very driven, very ambitious, and goal oriented. How has the journey been?
So the journey has been, it's been smooth and there's been some bumps, but we've hurdled over them, And I always
Okay.
like to use the analogy of hurdles because I used to run track and field and I used to jump over hurdles. And the technique, I'm going to explain the technique of jumping over hurdles and then I'll discuss how that is with life. So when you go over hurdles, they teach you how to three-step. No matter what height you are, if you're taller, you're sure they teach you how to three-step. This is for the 110 height hurdles. So the method for that one is that when you run, you're running fast, like maybe 3 steps before you get to the hurdle, you speed up. You 1, 2, 3, count in your head 1, 2, 3 before that hurdle, and you jump over the next one, right? So in real life, when there's a hurdle that comes through, you have to give your all so you can make it over that hurdle. You have to be strategic in between the hurdles until you get to the end. But a lot of times when
Wow.
people watch intermediate hurdles or they watch 110 high hurdles on TV, they don't realize that this is running with strategy. And for me, I
Wow.
feel like everything I've done in my life requires strategy. Yes, there's faith. Yes, there's, what the will is for your life and the purpose, but there's also strategy involved, like the work involved in it. So even with intermediate hurdles, when you go around the entire track, it's not like just running
Let me hit
full out.
let me hit play.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Oh, you're welcome. So even with intermediate hurdles, it's not like you run full out. With intermediate hurdles, when you go through that curve, you go with speed. When you're on the straightaway, now it's almost like you're striding. And when you cut that 300-meter line, you're giving your all. But people don't realize that when they watch it on TV, they just see it as someone just running through. But it's like in your head, you're strategizing. This is my technique. I need to speed it up before the hurdle. And that's how it is in life. When there's a hurdle, you kind of speed it up, you have strategy, and you get out of it and you come out victorious. So for me, like I had a lot of learning experiences because I didn't feel that I knew anybody else in this industry that could be kind of like my coach. Like I do have a coach, a life coach, but all the people that I knew, they were either in like the beauty industry or maybe event planning industry or music industry. I didn't know anybody specifically that was doing juicing. So I had to learn a lot of trial and error. And if you look at other businesses within your industry, you don't really know the secrets into how did I become global? How did I become do this nationwide? What was that technique or where did I get my labels that were cost effective that doesn't make the product be so expensive? So I had to do a lot of trial and error. And I just feel like what you mentioned earlier, a lot of the things that started off in the beginning of the story that were a problem, they ended up being good problems that taught me to come up with a strategy. So I'll give you another example. So when I was doing the pop-ups, one person mentioned they're like, you're giving away all your juice. Because when I used to have my juice tastings, I would have them in wine cups. And that's a lot of juice. Like that's actually
Right.
the size of my juice shots, like that are
Wow.
$3. So it's like imagine like 100 people bought these drank these samples. Like you just lost $300 because you're just giving out free
Mm,
samples. So I was like, okay, that was a problem that I had. So I was like, okay, I have a solution. In order to taste the flavor, you don't really need that much juice. So I found these test tubes online. They're supposed to be scientific test tubes. And because of the pandemic, I wanted to make my samples like more like, not like be exposed to germs. So they actually
right.
have little caps because before this is my business started right before the pandemic, like literally 2019. Right. It was a perfect time to start the business because
Wow.
this was a business that boomed and soared during the pandemic. See, that was
Right.
another
And people
problem.
became more health conscious
Yes, people became more
during
health
that time.
conscious, and then I was able to focus on my business too because I was working from home. So my 9 to 5 job, I used to travel all the way to Virginia. I live in Maryland. I used to travel all the way to Virginia because most of the healthcare, businesses are all in Virginia and not really in Maryland. So I used to travel to Virginia every day, try still run my business on the weekends, and I spent like maybe an hour, 15 minutes commuting one way every single day. So
Wow.
when the pandemic happened, yes, it was very sad and tragic, but it was a blessing in a way too, because we all had to work from home. And in working from home, that commute time, I was able to produce, juice for clients. I was able to get some certifications, some education in like clinical nutrition, learning more about the human body, how it responds to food, medications, supplements, and just have way more time to focus on and fine tune on the issues and the problems of my business. So another problem I had was that I would get clients that would order juice and then they would ask me questions like, "Oh, I'm on this medication. Can I drink this juice?" Or "I'm on this medication. Can I?" So that was like, okay, that was for me. That was like, okay, Tosin, you need to further your education. See, this is where we go back in school again. You need to further
Right.
your education and learn about drug interactions with juice, etc. So that's when I started deep diving into clinical nutrition, and that's why when I tell people, I was like, anybody can go online, order supplements. Anybody can go online and make a juice, but people have to be very careful because you have certain conditions and you start juicing, you could
That
actually
doesn't.
cause your
Mm,
body more harm than good. Like I heard
That's
people
true.
have allergic reactions to eating kale and taking their medication. But yeah, so a lot of times people don't realize like there's drug interactions or a lot of supplements that they sell over the counter. People don't realize that that can be also dangerous based on what you're eating. Because some of the, for instance, during the pandemic, there was a lady, she was one of my clients, and during the pandemic, everybody turned to an herbalist. Everybody was mixing all types of concoctions and saying,
Oh yeah, tell me
"This is
about
what
that.
this is the cure for COVID." So there was a lady that she was on blood pressure medications, and she was also drinking hibiscus juice. And because of my knowledge on the what hibiscus juice does, and my knowledge on what blood pressure medication does, it was almost like this lady was committing suicide, because what hibiscus juice does is that it lowers your blood pressure. What the hypertension medication does is that it lowers your blood pressure. So now she's going to the
Double.
doctor. Yeah, and they're like, your blood pressure is so low, we have to take your medication. So I told the lady, it's either one or the other. You can't take this hibiscus juice and blood pressure juice. She's like, oh, but my sister, story. So I was like, please listen to me. I'm actually certified. I know what I'm talking about. So she actually decided, to my surprise, I didn't know she decided to stop taking the meds. I thought she was going to stop taking the hibiscus juice. So she stopped taking the medication. And then she asked me, she said, can I start juicing with your remedy for people with hypertension? So I gave her my beet juice, etc. She followed the remedy. And do you know that when she went back to her doctor, they took her off her blood pressure medication? And this is somebody that they
Wow.
told her, she's an older lady, somebody they told her she was going to be on blood pressure medication for the rest of her life. And all she had
Wow.
to do was change one. I told her you were not sleeping enough, because I was observing her. I was like, you're not sleeping enough. That's one. Sleeping is your superpower. People don't realize it. People say, oh, I sleep when I die. No, you need to sleep. Because that's a lot that can slow down your progress with fitness, slow down your progress with healing, slow down your progress with your mental clarity. So I said you need to sleep more. Then I told her, you need to eat a better diet, because she thought she was eating super early, super healthy, because she was eating African food. But I was like, a lot of the oils you're using is actually increasing your cholesterol levels. So she changed all
Right.
of that, and now she's off her blood pressure medication. So I'm not
That's
saying that
amazing.
I want to get everybody off the medication. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I want you to do the best possible thing that you can, so that you can manage your life and live a happier, healthier life, not just by medicating, but also changing things in your diet so that you can either be on the lowest dose medication or at least feel better as you're taking your meds. So,
Health is wealth.
yes, it's
So
definitely well.
absolutely. I've seen a lot of people, me myself, I've seen the impact of it. Of Though mine has not been strictly juicing, but it has, I do spiritual fasting, and mine, I do it for a very long time, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks dry fast. And one thing I know, that this body that God has given us, he if we can only allow this body to do its work, the body has the capability to heal itself of every
Yes,
sickness, of
yes,
every disease. If we can just allow it to do its own thing and remove all these chemicals, because most of the food we eat today, as you know, Dr. O, they're all chemicals. They're
yes.
all processed. There's
Mhm,
so many inorganic stuff in our food we eat
mhm.
that actually it hurts our body rather than helping our body. But we should be eating to be healthy, not to eat to feel good, which, we've been
Exactly.
conditioned to eat to feel good, not
Mhm,
to eat to
mhm,
be healthy. So then, in a world where there's so much advancement in medical knowledge, medical technology, people are still, you know, um, 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 falling sick day in and day out,
yes, yes.
despite the fact that they are, groundbreaking medication advancements, new ways of diagnosis, new ways of preventative um, medicine, and all of that.
Yes.
People are catching these diseases, like shopping in a grocery store.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I would add to say that, I mean, if there's anything that we can do for ourselves, is to just allow our body to heal itself. And for we that we come from, Africa back home,
Mhm.
it doesn't really work for us well on this side of the world because our food, 90% is starchy.
Yeah.
That's what we were raised on. It's
Mhm.
starchy. You have to eat yam. You have to eat beans. Although, I mean, you can speak more on this than I can. But
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that we are raised on a different type of diet that maybe one way or the other may be suitable for the conditions back home, the
Mhm.
climate and the weather, and even the lifestyle back home. If you
Yeah.
eat, let's say, pondo, and egusi, and if you're living back home, you probably have to walk. So
Yes.
by the time you walk from wherever you're going to your house or whatever, you may have the body probably have burns all of those excess carbs and sugar in the body. But over here, you have to drive everywhere you go.
Yes.
So, so you eat, and there's not less activity in the body with the body than those of us that work remote or work in the office setting to you're sitting down every day.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Before I
Yeah.
realized, these sicknesses here and there, weight and all of that, it keep creeping us on us. So, I mean, what
Yes.
you're doing is amazing. It takes really great commitment for someone to shift, especially for an African. Because
Mhm.
why? We like our pepper, we like
Yes.
spices, we like our chicken, we like our goat, we like our okra, we like our everything. So
Yeah.
to transition in where you incorporate using as most part of your diet, it takes a different set of mind shift,
Yes.
right? So
Mhm.
what would be your advice, or what do you say to someone if they want to take this path, but maybe they don't have the umph to get it started?
Well, this is a very good question, and this is why I was like I wanted to deep dive further into nutrition, clinical nutrition, and then also the juicing. Because one thing, a lot of my new clients come to me when they see me is they feel like automatically they will have to eat just fruits, vegetables, and salad. And I'm like,
Mm,
if you think that's the reason we're here today, you're absolutely incorrect. You're still going to be able to eat the foods you love, but we're just going to make some slight modifications. So you mentioned a lot of foods that we eat that are actually very healthy for us. Like you mentioned okra. Okra is very, very, very healthy for fetal development. You mentioned like some of the stuff like cassava, like that's a very, very like a lot of foods that you mentioned. Pepper, pepper is actually very
mm,
good for our metabolism. I think you
mm,
mentioned spices. There's a lot of spices
mm,
that's herbal, very medicinal. It's just
mm,
that the thing behind it is that sometimes it's just preparation, like how is it cooked? Like chicken isn't 100% bad. It's just that how was it prepared? How was it grown? And like in if you go to any country in Africa now, Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, you see this chicken is in a farm. They're eating plants and they're not in a lab. So when you eat this
right.
chicken, it's not really so harmful, hazardous to us. But then if you come to US, you're like, oh man, we want this chicken to be tender. Let's grow it in the lab. Don't let it exercise. Feed it this. And now you have this lab grown chicken. And then when you're eating it, it affects you. That's why now you see labels of eggs. It'll say cage free or it'll say grass fed because they want to let you know like the way this animal was treated was in the normal way in the farm so that is less hazardous to your body. So how would I go about it? The first thing I would tell the person is that maybe they can do like a meal replacement. So for instance, let's say because I know a lot of people that clients that I have, they skip meals. Like they don't eat breakfast, they don't eat lunch, or so be easier either due to their lifestyle, they just don't they're hungry, or some is due to spiritual prayer reasons or religious reasons. So usually I
Mm,
say that you could have a meal replacement because this juice actually makes you full and then you'll not I won't say full like where you're bloated, but it makes you feel fulfilled, like I've eaten something. So I usually be like, you know what, you can have this as a meal replacement just to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into your diet. So let's say like someone doesn't really eat fruits and vegetables, or maybe they don't have the time. Because I know a lot of people they travel for work and they don't have, fridge. Like I even have a family member. She's a traveling physician, and she's like, I really miss my kitchen. I'm always in a hotel. There's no kitchen. There's no fridge, so she has to eat out. So it's like this is where juicing comes into play. You know what? You can still have your. You don't have to have your juicer because this is why sometimes you have to buy the juice or etc. You don't have your juicer, but you can use this as your breakfast. Now you have your vitamins for the day. You just drank it all instead of having to chew it and prepare it, etc. So that's the convenience side of things. So I would just say start with one and then gradually you can maybe juice for a day, not 10 days. You can juice for a day, or you can just add it as one meal in a day. But what I let people know is that don't do any drastic measures. What I did was drastic. But hold on, average normal person, don't do any drastic measures. How about you still eat your egusi soup? Because egusi, the spinach, is the cruciferous vegetable, very healthy for you. It's anti-inflammatory. Like a lot of people that have, I know a lot of a very popular woman diagnosis, cystic fibrosis, people that have um, I think there's ovarian cyst and then there's fibroids. Do you know if you have an anti-inflammatory diet, it can actually shrink the fibroids? And spinach is something that's considered anti-inflammatory. However, what is wrong about it? Sometimes the preparation, how it's cooked, people are using palm oil. So imagine you're mixing something that's very nutritious and then using the wrong oils. Now you just added a whole bunch of cholesterol and now it's losing its powerful medicinal effect. So one thing I learned, because a lot of people, you mentioned something earlier that being a vegan Nigerian or vegan African. So, I always like to, this is why people say I like to read so much, but I always like to know, I like to always investigate because I don't want to give people false information. I want to see what is the history. Do you know that before we were colonized in the continent of
Hmm.
Africa, before we were ever colonized, we were the ones that invented veganism. Our diets were mostly herbs, vegetables, and then maybe once in a year meat. What once in a year? It was mostly herbs, vegetables, fruits, like organic fruits and things we grow, and once in a while maybe
Wow.
like festivals. We're the ones that actually invented it. But through colonization, I'll speak for Nigeria, the Englishmen, they brought in all the carbohydrates and then all the processing of bread and all that stuff that's giving us diabetes, giving us cancer, giving us all these diagnoses we have. Because now, when I last time I visited Nigeria was not even maybe 4 months ago. Now everything is so westernized that it's like I can't even tell where am I. What's the difference? Okay, yeah, I know where I am. It's the
Hmm.
vibe, everything, but it's like you can't even really tell the difference in preparation now because we have converted and we have evolved. But originally, our food was so medicinal that it's like people were healing just from the herbs and the natural resources that we have within our land. So that's
It's
what I learned
amazing.
about.
Yeah, a lot of people are realizing that actually
Mhm.
we need to go back to our roots. Most of the
Yeah.
things that, we saw it as colloquial. Um, if you're doing it, you're not polished or you're
Yeah.
uneducated or, you're not trendy. These
Hmm.
things are actually what keeps us going. That's
Yes.
what is
Yes.
life because they are the natural way that God intended how we should live, how we should
Mhm.
live.
Yeah.
And, yes, there's nothing wrong with advancement. There's nothing wrong with growth and finding better ways and enhancement to make our life easier and all of that. However,
Mhm.
if it's compromising our body and, in return, giving a lot of sicknesses or issues to the body, then it's something that we need to look at. I know some people also mix intermittent fasting with juicing as
Yes.
well. I have
Yes.
people that actually I because I do this a lot, I fast,
Mhm.
and it helps me really. Um,
Yes.
uh, and so I recommended some that for a colleague that was having sugar issues here and there. I said, try it out. Try intermittent fasting. Take out. You can eat if even you have to eat these starchy foods. Maybe don't eat it too late
Yes.
in the day. And to be honest, that's one struggle that I had.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and I'm still even working on it because
Yes.
I grew up in boarding school
Mhm.
throughout my whole life. And in boarding school, you can wake up and eat at any time in the night.
Mhm.
I mean, you can eat anything. So
Yes.
1 a.m. you're eating eba and sardine and all of that, or you're eating gari with sugar and milk. I mean, you can eat anything. Like there's
Mhm.
no proper structured routine. So I grew up with that lifestyle, but I realized that I'll wake up, I'll eat in the middle of the night, and I'll wake up and I feel bloated. I feel
Mhm.
my energy is down. Like even mentally, I'm foggy. Like I'm not ready for the day. And I made
Yeah.
a switch. That's when actually I found out about intermittent fasting. So I
Yes.
made a switch. Started doing that, and I took out most of the carbs that I would eat, and I felt so great. I
Yes.
wake up in the morning, have energy, eat a lot of. I wasn't juicing, but I was eating
Mhm.
fruits. I
Yes.
was eating fruits as well, and it was great. It was
Mhm.
so. It made a whole lot of difference. Number one, with how I feel, beside losing weight and um, getting myself. And even at some point, I started. I think before I started juice, work on this health journey, I was having some pains in my knees. And when I
Okay.
started, within a week or two, those pains were gone. I could no
Yes.
longer feel it. So, I mean, we all need to take, and I'm speaking to all of us watching or, listening, let's take care of our health. I don't know if we work hard, we make all the money, and we don't have the life to be able to enjoy it, then what's the point of it? If somebody wants to find your product, this amazing Dr. O product, which I can't wait to lay my hands on it, uh, where can they get it?
Okay, so my website is drOjuice.com. So that's spelled DROHHH juice.com. So it's Dr. O with three H's juice.com. And you can get any juice you want. You can even schedule a nutrition consult, and we ship nationwide to all 50 states. So that's
Okay,
it.
how long does it usually take?
It depends. If you're in the, let's say you're in the DMV, which is Washington metropolitan area, that includes Virginia, Maryland, and Washington D.C. It will take only 24 hours to get to you. If you're like in New York, New Jersey, also it takes 24 hours. If you're like maybe in the Midwestern region, it can take anywhere from 24 to 36 hours to reach you. And then if you're like in the, let's say like southern, like maybe like Texas or California area, it may take anywhere from like 48 hours, maybe to 52 hours to get to you. And it'll still be like in good condition, everything, and it won't be hot or anything when you receive it. So,
Amazing.
mhm.
Amazing. Do you have sample bottle that you can show us? You have it
Yeah.
with you
Oh, so I don't actually I
right now?
do in my yes, I do. I can go get it if you can just give me one
Please
moment.
do.
Okay, just
Yes.
we have this these are juice shots, but we have 9 different flavors. So usually if you wanted to order a sample pack, you would get 9 of these. These are very small. These are just 3 ounces. So that way you can try each flavor, not a huge commitment. Try it, see if you like it, the taste. But there are also juice shots too that are this size where you can have it's more potent in a smaller quantity. So this is the sample pack. There's 9 different flavors of these. If you wanted to order an 8 ounce bottle, this is the 8 ounce size. So this is 8 ounce.
Wow. Well
Yeah.
packaged.
Yes. And this is the 16 ounce. This is what you probably, this was what I was referring to like meal replacement earlier. This is a 16
Right.
ounce. So, and
Wow.
these are my different flavors.
I like the design though. I really
Do
like the
you like?
packaging. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. But like these are different. These do all do for different things. This is my beetroot juice. This is like a liver detox. It actually tastes really good. So this is called blush. This is a gentle detox. The stronger one is called beat it. Then over here, this juice here, this is called the grapevine. So these are people that are experiencing issues with like bloating, etc. And they want to speed up like weight loss, and if you have like water retention issues. And then this juice here that I mentioned, this is called Berry Nice. So if you're having like, if you need this for like your brain health. So if you have like a family history of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, this actually slows down the degenerative process of your brain because it has your blueberries, your raspberries, your strawberries, all the berries, and there's scientific studies to back that up. So it's not just bobo science. There's actually
Hmm.
real evidence that backs up the mixture of berries and brain health and grapevine. And if you're someone that's like on any type of statins, blood pressure medications, if you do drink this juice, it would have to be like at least 4 hours after you take your meds because it's also like has the same effects as a blood thinner. So these are just
Wow.
some facts that I learned through my studies to advise people when they're juicing with their diet, etc.
Mm. So let me ask you, for anyone that has diabetes or high blood sugar, of course,
Mhm.
some not all fruits, like
Mhm.
um, some fruits have high glycemic index,
Mhm.
and so diabetics needs to be sure if you're
Mhm.
very careful if they're juicing which type of fruit they can eat because of the sugar
Yeah.
content. So, do you have any product you have for diabetics?
Yes, so this one definitely the berry nice is very low in glycemic index. If you go to any doctor or nutritionist, they'll tell you berries are very low in sugar. So this has your blueberries, it has your raspberries, it has your strawberries, very low in sugar. And then the rest of the combination, it has celery in it, it has green apple. So this is like very, very low in sugar. Also, believe it or not, beets are very sweet, but beets are actually very good for people with diabetes, the beet juice. And then another juice I have is a green juice. So this juice is just combination of like spinach, kale, green apple, there's cucumbers, very, very, very low in sugar. And then I also have celery juice. So I have about five juices that is good for people just watching their sugar or people that are pre-diabetic or diabetic.
So, if they go on your website, they'll be able to know which one is good for which condition on the website.
Yes.
It clarifies. Okay, great,
Yes.
great,
Yes.
awesome. Well,
Mhm.
guys, has been a
Mhm.
great discussion.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I wish we can go on, because I like to talk about health and ways to live a healthy and holistic life, and because it aligns with the will and the purpose of God for us as human beings. So it's something I'm always passionate about. But for the sake of time, we have to bring it here. And what are your advice, your word of encouragement for someone who is watching you?
So my advice and my encouragement for people that are watching this station is that if you're trying to start a business and you feel that, okay, I don't want to start a business because I don't have the tools, or I don't want to start a business because, oh, it's something that everybody's doing, just remember this, that there's nobody else in the world that has the same fingerprint. So even if you're starting a business that like 100,000 people have started it, there's no one that can have the same name, the same brand, and the same outcome as you do. So that's my advice for business. As far as health, just remember you can't enjoy the luxuries of life if you're sick. So you've seen some of the richest people have passed away with not good health, and wealth cannot buy you good health, but good health can buy you wealth. So
I
that's
love
the
that.
advice that I just actually that one just came to me. So that's my quote. I'm gonna trademark it or patent it.
Please do before I steal it. I like it.
Yes,
I
yes.
like it.
But
That's amazing. What makes you happy, or what does
what makes
happiness mean to you?
Oh, I love this question. What makes me happy is one, seeing that I fulfilled what I'm supposed to do. I know that sounds cliche, but I don't feel my happiest when I just go like on a vacation. Like I feel relaxed, but I don't feel my happiest. I feel my happiest when I've done something fulfilling. So for instance, when I went to Nigeria last, I did a project called Amaraji Prepare, and that was just basically a smoothie clinic giving back to the community on a health nutrition initiative, teaching them how to make smoothies, giving them non-perishable items. And we can talk more about that another time, but like just giving back and fulfilling your purpose and doing something good. So that what I feel like that's what truly makes me happy. And you asked the second question. What was the second question?
Um, so the first one was, what does
Mhm.
happiness mean to you?
Uh-huh.
Right. Okay. No, the second one is, what does happiness mean to you?
Okay, happiness means to me is being full of joy, full of life, good health, having people surrounded by you that love you, and just being able to just leave your mark on this earth, no matter what it is. Even if it's just tutoring someone or if it's just, being a mom or being a father or just doing something that it leaves your mark where it passed on and on and on. That's happiness to me because I know that I'm leaving my mark and I'm fulfilling what my assignment is. So that's what happiness means to me.
Amazing, guys. I know
Mm-hmm.
this has been a good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. O has shared her products with us and her journey with us. I think there's definitely lessons you can draw from her journey, even how she was able to get to where she is with her Jews business. And also even with her education, how she was able to, one hurdle or one thing after the other and just kept pushing it. This is where she is today. It's all possible if you can only put your mind to it and stay focused and be determined. There's nobody as similar as you are. Like Dr. O said, you are unique in your own ways, and the world is waiting on you to take us out for a surprise. I thank you so much for staying here, watching this video. Again, to like or share the video with your friends in your network. If you, again, I open the platform up to all of us. If you have a story or a journey you be able to you want to share, or something about you that you want to share to encourage the next person watching, you can send a message to this WhatsApp number is 737-444-8091. 737-444-8091. Now, this is WhatsApp only. So if you call it, it's not going to come through. I'm just being clear. It's only WhatsApp text only. All right. And when you send a message, we'll be able to reach out to you and work out the logistics so we can bring you on the podcast. I so much thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Dr. O, it's been an amazing discussion with you. Thank you so much for allowing us to learn from you, to learn from your journey. And we even look forward to a future episode on your work, your nonprofit, which is the work you're doing back home in Nigeria, and the other
Mm-hmm.
good stuff you have going on as well. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
also want to catch up with Dr. Ojuice and see
Mm-hmm.
how it's doing in the future. We wish you much success,
Thank you.
ahead, more open doors, that God, through this amazing work you're doing, that there will be greater, greater, greater much testimonies of people that their life has been turned around and impacted for the good. Thank you once again for being on the show.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, guys, that's all we have for you. I'm going to see you on the next episode. I hope you enjoyed your rest of your day and have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.